How the fund for students with disabilities is allocated to Irish higher education institutions. This explainer video is brought to you by AHEAD and the Higher Education Authority. Firstly, it's important to remember that all colleges have a legal obligation to support students with disabilities and make reasonable accommodations where necessary, in order for them to be able to fully participate in higher education, regardless of any available outside funding. The Fund for Students with Disabilities is in place to assist colleges in providing that support through a fair and transparent distribution of available funding to the colleges making applications. It should be noted that the funding allocated may not always cover the full cost of providing accommodations, and that rather, the fund is there to support colleges in meeting their legal obligations and improving the student experience. In ensuring a fair system of allocation of the available funding, the HEA uses an allocation model, which aims to allocate money where it is most needed. This model is a little complicated, but we will try to present it here in simple terms. The amount of money a college receives for each of its students with disabilities through the fund is not the same. It is contingent on the types of support the student requires and their level of need. Additionally, the amount of money received to support a particular type of student, for example a deaf student requiring 10 hours of sign language interpretation a week, will vary from one year to the next. This is because at the beginning of any given year, the Higher Education Authority has a fixed pot of money to allocate to the Fund for Students with Disabilities. So the money allocated by the HEA for different categories of student is calculated based on the overall numbers applying to the fund in that year and the different levels of support required by each cohort. In other words, there's a fixed amount which has to be shared fairly among the institutions applying, based on their numbers of eligible students with disabilities and the levels and types of support they need. Based on the applications received from institutions, each student is given a weighting of 1, with additional cost weightings added for extra high-cost supports and further weightings added within these extra support categories for the level of need of this support type, ranging from levels 1 to 4. There are 3 categories of support which students will gain extra weighting for. Non-medical help, which covers professional support, such as that from a personal assistant or dyslexia tutor. In this category, the level of support is defined by the hours of support provided to each student. Deaf hard of hearing supports, such as ISL interpretation or speed text. In this category, the level of support is defined by the actual cost of the support reported by the institution for each student. And transport, for example a taxi or private car. The level in this category is also defined by actual costs incurred. These categories may change a little from year to year, so you should refer to the latest FSD guidelines for the most up-to-date categories. Once the Higher Education Authority have applied a weighting to every student across the system who has been included in institutional applications, they then take their total pot of money in the fund for that year and divide it by the sum of the weighting of all students combined, arriving at a financial amount corresponding with a weighting of 1. They can then calculate an institution's share of the total fund by multiplying the combined weighting of the students they applied for by this figure. And when applied to all institutions, the summed total adds up to the total pot. Let's take a look at a simplified example to better understand how it works in practice. All figures are imaginary, of course, and you should check the latest Fund for Students with Disabilities guidelines for up-to-date weightings. Let's imagine the total pot for the fund was €1,000 and there were just 3 colleges in the system. College A is applying to the fund for 2 students, College B for 5 students and College C for 3 students. In College A, both students require the basic support that all students with disabilities get, giving them a weighting of 1 each. But one of the students also requires Irish Sign Language interpretation, and the actual cost of the interpretation provided throughout the year places them in level 2 of that category. meaning that an extra weighting of 8 is added to their total weighting, giving the college a combined weighting of 10. In College B, all 5 students fall under the basic support need category only, giving the college a combined weighting of 5. Of the 3 students in College C, 2 require extra support over and above the basic need. One requires dyslexia tuition for a small number of hours, adding a weighting of 4, and a student with a physical disability with relatively high needs requires both transport and a personal assistant at level 3, adding a further weighting of 28. College C's combined weighting is therefore 35. To determine the financial value of a weighting of 1, the total weightings of College A, B and C are combined, equaling 50, and divided into the total pot of 1,000, giving a value of €20 for a weighting of 1. Now the college total weightings are multiplied by this number to arrive at their share of the fund for that particular year. College A gets €200, College B €100, and College C €700. So, you can see that the aim is to share the available pot fairly between the institutions based on the needs of the students in each institution. Additionally, it's important to note that monies received through the fund in any given year are calculated based on the numbers provided for the previous year to ensure that colleges get a timely delivery of funds and are not waiting on funds to put supports in place for students at the beginning of the year. Hopefully this helps to clarify how the fund for students with disabilities is allocated in higher education in Ireland. For more resources around supporting students with disabilities in further and higher education, visit ahead.ie/education.